So today we're going to be programming in Scratch. We're going to be getting a character to follow your mouse. This is what hopefully you're going to learn by the end of this. You're going to know what a sprite is. You're going to be able to do some basic events and statements in Scratch. And you're going to be able to understand and explain maybe what a sprite is, what sequence means, and what a loop does and what function it can have. So first of all is a sprite. A sprite is a computer graphic which can be moved on the screen. Now I've got two examples of sprites there. So there's characters that you'll see a lot in games. And that's a really straightforward to think. Instead of saying a character, it could be a sprite, because actually a sprite could be a lot more than just a character. It could be a box that opens, it could be a door that opens, it could be a light that swings. There's lots of different objects in a game that move that we would call as sprites as well, not just characters. We're going to add our character or our sprite in first onto Scratch. So hopefully by the end of this tutorial you're going to be able to have a wasp, and when you click on your spacebar it should buzz and it should follow your mouse around as though it's trying to attack you. So that's what it looks like. That is what a good one looks like. So open up your template and you should have your background already set. You should have your things ready to go. The first thing that we're going to do is create a new sprite. So by doing that, you can see it says new sprite just underneath your game there, and there's a little folder with an arrow coming out of it. That's where we're going to upload it from. So you're going to find where your teacher tells you to. They would have saved it somewhere different to mine because I'm on my computer. And I'm going to choose the wasp. So when you double click on the wasp, you'll see that it's got a white background. Now that doesn't look like what a good one looks like. So to do that, we can click on costumes. Now sprites have costumes, and this is how we can make it look as though it's flying, by using different costumes. Now video is moving pictures. Now for that to make sense, we need to just delete the ones with the white background. There's only a couple, I think there's 3. So you just click on the little cross in the corner on those, so find any ones with white in them. There's another one there. Now to get it to make it look as though it's flying, what it does is it very quickly switches between these. So you can see, even if I very quickly swap between those, its wings moving and it's going up a little bit and then down a little bit. And if I quickly go through them all, it will look more as though it's flying all the time. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to get our code to do it for us, because it's really tricky to do it with your mouse all the time, especially when you're trying to play the game as well. So we want the code to do as much as possible for us. So we need to know 2 things. We need to know what an event is and what a statement is. The first thing is an event. It's when something happens. It's something that you do as an input using your keyboard to tell the computer to do something, to maybe do a statement, because a statement is a line of code that performs an action. So it could be telling your character to move 10 steps like that little picture in the blue. That's what your statement could be. And the event might be that you press the space bar and then it will follow that statement, it will move 10 steps. Or it could be an up arrow. So if you pressed up, it would move your character 10 steps. A bit like when you're playing a game, that's how it works. So we need an event and we need a statement. So our events, we are going to use when space is clicked or pressed, because we pressed a key. So when space key is pressed, we need it to do something. So in looks, because we want to change the way it looks, we are going to click on next costume. We're going to drag it and attach it. You can see it turns white, a bit like a jigsaw puzzle, and it's going to attach when you loose the mouse to underneath it. And then what that does is, when space key is pressed, this is called sequence. So if you remember, one of the things that I said that we would be looking at is, by the end of the lesson, the following terms. Sprite, we know, is just a moving graphic. So it could be a character, it could be a box, as is the wasp in our case. Sequence is the next term. In sequence, if I attach a lot of these, and we don't need all of these, I'll get rid of them in a second. just by clicking and dragging them across. Sequence means that when you follow this event, when this event happens, so when space key is pressed, if it's running with sequence, it'll do the next one, next costume, then it'll move to the next statement, then the next statement, then the next one, then the next one, then the next one, then the next one, and it will do them all in sequence until it gets to the very last one. And it's as straightforward as that. It will just go down the list. We only want one. We just want next costume. And when you've got those two on there, you can hold spacebar, and you'll see that if I hold space, my character will look as though it's flying, because it's switching between all of those costumes that are slightly different to make it give the impression that it's flying. And that, in its simplest term, is animation. That is six or seven frames of just slightly different version of the wasp to make it look as though it's flying. That's step number one. The next thing that we're going to look at is our last term. Our last term here is a loop. A loop will repeat the code that's inside it. Now, in the first picture it says forever in yellow, and that's our loop. It will forever do whatever I put inside it. And you can see it's got like a gap inside the jigsaw, and I've slotted a jigsaw piece in the middle of it. And my jigsaw piece there says play sound wasp until done. And it will be forever doing that statement. I don't have to tell the computer anything. It will just do it all the time until I say stop. Whereas the next one on the right hand side will only do it for 10 times. It will repeat 10 times that statement, play sound wasp until done. There's different types of loops, and there's a lot more than just those two. But we're only going to look at the first one. But I thought it would be good to show that there are different types. We need the forever one, because we want our wasp to be forever flying as though it's flying. To give the impression that it is a real sort of character, that is animated. Otherwise it might be a little bit boring. So, under control, because we're controlling what our statements are doing, we are going to drag the forever onto our board, and then we're going to drag the next costume inside my loop, and then I can attach my loop back underneath my event. Now if I click spacebar once, there you go. It is forever showing me the next costume. You can see that it's highlighted in yellow. It's like sort of glowing a yellow, because that is running and will continue running until I press the red octagon there for it to stop. That's our first piece done, because our next task is for us to be able to get our wasp to follow our mouse. So we need an event when space key is pressed, because that is going to start our game. So in our, what a really good one looks like, if I press spacebar, it follows us, it makes a sound, and it flies. So it's animated. There's three things. We've done one of them, we've got it to fly. The next one that we're going to do is have a look at how we can get our character to fly towards my mouse. So here we go. What we need to do is we need it to be forever, because we don't want the wasp to stop until I press the stop button. So this is going to happen in a loop. This is always going to happen. So we're going to go to motion, because motion is another word for movement, and we want our character to move. Now we're going to use certain ones of these. The first one that we're going to put in towards is point towards mouse pointer, because we want our character to move towards the mouse pointer. But first of all, it needs to point towards it so it knows where to move to. Which leads me on to the next statement. Move 10 steps. Steps is a measurement in Scratch. It's maybe a pixel or two on the screen, it's just a short measurement. So if it's moving 10 steps, it's only moving a small amount. But that's all we need, because it's forever doing it. It will always be moving that small amount. Now we can change that. In fact, I'm going to change it. I'm going to put 0.1. Because if I put 0.1, I can always change that afterwards to make it faster. But if I keep it at 0.1, that means that it will slowly and slowly just follow my mouse. So I'm going to keep it at 0.1. Now, I need it to do one more thing. I need it to wait. Otherwise, it will just constantly follow me. So I'm going to get it to wait just a short period. So if I press space, let's just see what happens. It's not moving a great amount, but what it is doing is following my mouse. And you can see that I've got time for my mouse to move before my wasp follows. Look, there's a massive delay. So I'm going to stop it. And I'm going to change my weight because that is too long. Because you can see that every time I moved it, it was waiting. So I'm going to change my weight to 0.1. I'm going to change my movement to 10. So if I leave it back at 10 and I do it again, let's see what happens this time. There we go, we've got it to follow. But actually what's happening is my wasp has managed to gain acrobatic skills, and it can do loops, and it can follow it round this way, and it can go upside down. Wasps can't fly upside down. So I'm going to add one more line of code. In my motion, I'm going to set the rotation style, the one at the bottom, to left and right. That means that instead of rotating all the way around 360 degrees in the circle, all the way around, it's only going to be able to turn left and right. So it can go one way or the other way, or it can go up and down. So let's try that. If I press space, there you go, I can no longer fly upside down. So that bit is working. There's one part missing. I've got it to animate. I've got it to move and follow my mouse. The next part was one little thing. It's the most annoying part of the wasp. It's the sound, isn't it? So I'm going to event, because we want it to, when space key is pressed, we want it to do something. And then forever, so we need a control. We need our loop again. We need a forever loop because we want it to always be making that sound. We are going to play sound until it's done, because it's going to finish the sound and then it'll do it again, finish the sound. And we should have on sound, if you click sounds at the top, you can create a new sound. So upload sound, and I'm going to upload my wasp sound, and your teacher will show you where your wasp sound is. And when you go back, you can play sound and then click on the little drop down, and there's wasp. And that's it. We are done. We have covered what a sprite is. Well, that is a moving computer graphic. It doesn't have to be a character. It could be a box, it could be a table, it could be a lamp. Basic events. So if you press something, if you press spacebar, if you press a key, it will do a statement maybe. A statement is just a line of code that does an action, like move. The following terms, sprite we've covered. Sequence, it just does that code in order. And a loop will constantly do the same code over and over again. So we've got our event, we've got a loop, we've got our statements, and if you put all three together, you've got yourself your following